We are here to have a panel discussion where we are talking about achieving denim sustainability through reduction of rewashing and rejections. Why this is necessary? Because sustainability is a fashion word nowadays, as everybody knows. And if you talk about sustainability, any step is being taken for sustainability becomes expensive. So what to do? There are people who cannot invest, and industry has to run, and we have to achieve our sustainable targets as well. So one way of achieving sustainability is that how we can do first time right things from design to delivery, and that's the whole concept of this panel discussion. So my first question to all of you is, do you believe that reducing rework and rejections can contribute significantly to achieve sustainability in denim manufacturing?
Yes.
So his mic is...
Hello. Yes.
And why you believe so?
See, in any case, sustainability is a buzzword, but nobody is going to pay you for the sustainability as a concept on a fabric or a garment or anything. So how do you maintain that sustainability? Because going forward, the Mother Earth is going to be always giving you somewhere a concern.
Right, sir.
Be it a water management, or be it a chemical management, or be it a, let's say, electricity and everything. So anything which you stop it at the first go by doing it first time right, or not adhering to any processes which are like rework or redo of those things, will definitely give an advantage on the sustainability, because that much of consumption, that much of wastage, that much of extra cost, all this put together will not add to the cost. So on your sustainability concept where you are wanting to get some money, probably by this way, by saving, you can connect to that as a part. That's my way of looking at it.
Thank you. Shrinivas, you want to add something on it? Because
Yeah. So let me start with what sustainability is all about, right? So sustainability is continuity of doing what you are doing now in the future generations as well. So by doing this, how do you do this? Is basically using limited resources, right? So limiting the amount of resources that you use, and whatever you use, don't create any kind of waste out of that. And you keep making it circular, right? So you keep using it, reusing it again. So this is on broader context, this is what sustainability would mean in terms of. So what are the, in terms of resources we talk about? Resources, all these three P's, we talk about sustainability, we talk about the people, we talk about planet, we talk about the product itself, which is actually there. So these resources, how do we actually reduce usage? Now we talk about denim has a apparel. Now what happens is any other apparel which is actually there doesn't have washing has a major elephant in the room, right? So what happens in denim, washing is the biggest contributor. Adds a lot of value, but also adds a lot of, the resource consumption is high, right? So when we talk about denim, sustainability denim kind of goes hand in hand, right? So you need to actually ensure, so whenever you denim, what happens, you need to do washing, you have a lot of consumption of resources. You talk about energy, you talk about water, water is 100% you talk in terms of the washing itself. You talk about the energy, like for example, any of these garmenting facilities, you talk about a denim laundry which is actually there, 60-70% of the energy consumption is because of the laundry itself. And you talk about a chemical, 100% in terms of the chemical we are using. So a lot of things which actually contributes because of the denim washing has same. So whenever you're doing kind of rework, right, reducing in terms of the rework means that much amount of lesser resources you're going to use, including in terms of people as well. And in terms of when you talk about rejection reduction, that means you are talking the entire value chain impact, right? So the entire value chain, you are right, not even starting right from cotton growing to the end, right? So we are talking about a huge chunk. So different kind of impacts. Rework might have a lesser impact, but limited to the laundry part of it. But when you talk about a rejection, you talk about the entire value impact. So it's a huge sustainability.
Ravi, you want to add something to it?
So,
because you are designing things and bottom weight, you are a bottom wear designer, right? And I think 90% of the product in denim is bottoms.
yes. So I, since I come from a mill experience also, so as if you see, you can reduce a lot of resampling and things. Now mills send you a lot of hangers and all those things which you can plan accordingly and move on. So one is fabric selection, another part is washing and definitely washing operations. So if you strategically plan it, you can definitely reduce the operations and reduce resampling also. So as a design stage, definitely these things, if you follow basic concepts, then we can definitely reduce the resampling process.
You, it's not working? You can just...
Giving you a kind of a brand perspective, I think, see, when it comes to like today's consumer, the bigger thing, or I would say like a factory to a mill, or a brand to a factory, or even the end consumer, there are three things which are like becoming more and more important, which is I would say speed to market. The other, which is, I would say, affordability. And the third, which is something, sustainability, I would say, it's become more a hygiene. It's not something, I would say, a marketing word right now, because when I think our generation grows up, the Gen Z, Alpha, it's going to be like, this is something which is like hygiene. So, like, if it becomes expensive, I think that is how, if we save on wastages, rejections, I think that is where the money saved is in the bank.
Right.
And like, if you think about brands making margin or factories making margin, I think this is where I would say a penny saved is penny in the bank, kind of. So.
Great. So, to the audience, basically, so here everybody understands that reduction and rejection both are important to achieve certain sustainability goals, whether it's for mills or for garment factories. And somewhere it is related to speed, which Rajiv has mentioned, and also it is related to bottom line, because the more you can able to reduce your rejections and reworks, the better you can create your bottom lines. Now, the next question which is there, and it is a fighting question basically, which there is always between a fight between a mill and the garment factories. So, sir, to you, how the fabric mills can help in achieving this? Because whenever this problem occurs in the factories, or a designer will select certain fabrics, and then it moves on to the production floor, and something goes wrong, the first person to blame is mill.
That's a very big money. One thing is for sure, that every problem has a solution.
Right.
Because fabric is nothing like, it's a geometry, and there is going to be somewhere something which is not aligned with the customer requirement. Now, the basic concept to have it very amicable solution is to understand the customer's requirement in a much bigger way by differentiating what are the do's and what are the don'ts.
Right.
That is the most important factor. Second thing is, don't do a shortcut to the qualitative aspect, because most of the time when the prices are negotiated and prices are being brought down, which is a normal human tendency also.
Right.
If I am a buyer, I'll do that. Somebody else is a buyer, he is going to do that.
Correct.
So in that context, people tend to go for doing shortcuts or do some differentiation on the yarns or on the parameters or on the shade or finish or whatever you say as a aesthetics of the fabric, which ultimately would result into a negative part at the customer's end, which is the end user or end garment manufacturer.
Correct.
And from there, the spark starts. So I always believe, and I have been doing this for ages now,
Correct.
and probably with my experience, my team has gone into that as a part of it, wherever I have worked with or whomsoever I have worked with, that this is a given thing, that don't do any shortcuts, understand the SOPs of a garmenter who is requiring what, do a test case, maybe a minimum 300 meters or 1000 meters, get it along on all the FPTs through the fabric FPTs as well as garment FPTs, and probably if it works out, then you are, I think, at the least possible damage at the confrontation. This is what I believe in.
You, Ben, Ravi.
Complete
So,
spec
the
sheet.
designer point of view, if I ask,
Yeah.
do you get the right thing when you do the sampling stage, and then you are able to get the right thing at the bulk, same thing at the bulk stage? And what your manufacturing units will say.
So basically, the detail or the information, which is we call it transparency and all those things. So when you ask a mill to send you a spec sheet or something, that clearly mentions that what is this product suitable for, how many washes you can take out, because there is supporting hanger is also there. Whether a designer can study that spec sheet, follow that hanger, and proceed easily, and we can minimize the mishappening which happens at garment unit. But at the same time, a designer should also understand that, okay, this product is, as I said, you're made for this purpose.
Correct.
So if we follow that basic concept, we can achieve and reduce the mishaps.
Rajiv, what is your concern into it? You are doing so
I would
much of
kind
denim,
of
right?
second what Ravi said, and I think we as product guys, or maybe like, see, we should look at, like, to be honest, I am not like a very technical guy in denim, but I like kind of understand like what my customer wants.
Right.
So I think it's basically like not trying to put it like as is on, like from the sample to the, there are kind of issues which will happen. But I think you need to look at it with the lens of a consumer, like will he like it or not like it, and like have a, I would say, like a in between or a range kind of a thing where it works for like every one of us.
So Shrinivas, you have been always the center point, right?
Yeah.
Right side fabric, left side designer.
So been in the war front actually most of the times. Yeah. So so the first thing I would actually want to say in terms of the fabric, right? So usually what happens, you have a development. So you might end up having a fabric which is pulled out in the bulk, and you do a development. That is something which is a no-no.
Right.
Right. You start right. So you start right is basically you start when the fabric which is from the master roll. So that's something which sometimes many people miss it out because of limitation of time or whatever it is. I mean, that is something which needs to be avoided, and that's the first step. And second is hello. Yeah. The second thing is in terms of sometimes the testing parameters also. I mean, I'm going slightly digressing into a different area. The testing also is important. We should understand also the kind of fabric and the kind of wash kind of has to be married in as well. So this understanding is also has to happen with the brands, the fabric supplier, and the apparel manufacturer. So all put together. So we need to understand what are the wash we're talking about, and what are the fabric we are using, right? And what are the product you're trying to make in. So all these actually makes a difference. Yeah, and as I again said, fabric, and the same fabric coming in, I mean, keeping the master roll, sending the right fabric, same fabric will do the job actually.
Basically, here all team members panel members are very, very modest while they are talking around. But on the shop floors, we have seen when the problem happens, how we used to communicate in such a...
The laundry guy is the final guy who is going to make it up, right?
And
so that's the last postmortem.
It is never like this on the shop floor when things will happen.
I'm sure everybody who is listening here, they are also doing.
They are able to relate.
Yeah.
Something is happening there. Okay, now the next question I will tell you, since we have discussed this, I think denims has been now in the industry for almost 70, 80 years, but by the time SOPs been written, mill has written the SOPs, factories has written the SOPs, brands has written in a very, very detailed manner, and everybody says, yes, SOP works, right? But still, SOP don't work. What you have told about master rolls and all. So many times I have seen in my career, when any problem comes up, right, and you put that problem on the table, and then you bring all the stakeholders in the center, it is 90% problem is because of communication gap.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the only answer.
Now I want to start a communication gap thing. How much it is important?
This is the most important. That's what I told you, that you have to understand the end customer. Let's say for a fabric manufacturer, the garmenter is the end consumer. Forget about the brand, because brand has selected that product, and that is why it is going to the converter.
Correct.
Now, in that context, if a converter and a fabric manufacturer are not aligned or not in sync, and that too can happen because of this, the master batch sample would have not gone, or he has taken a different sample, or the communication between the two parties is not adequately done.
Right.
This can only happen most of the times this communication are not happening or are subjected to something differently is because the people gets changed
Okay.
at the places. So the person who has handled that over a period of time, he moves to somewhere else in the same organization or somewhere outside. Probably that is the missing link which is not plugged in.
Right.
So that is the biggest communication gap which happens. Either side, it is from the garment manufacturer also, it can be from the mill
side
also.
also, right.
So this is the basic thing. So communication, I tell you, that is the first and foremost requirement for anything to happen in a right way. Then the SOPs come in place and then the things follow. But still you will find out, because at the end, the brand who is already going to take that fabric, now there the QA person also needs to be aligned with the actual requirement of a designer.
Right.
So that sync also is required. So at times it happens, but as I told you, there is always a solution to any problem. Probably that gets nurtured over a period of time.
So the kind of, as you said, documentation and all, the kind of documentation what we do at brand level, so that we can reduce all this reworking and all. So the tech pack is there, then swatch is there, target sample, what is the proto sample, what you call it. The proto sample is there. We use those things to, and we also train parallelly to the quality team also that, okay, this is the target we have to achieve. And then that message in a document form, it also goes to the brands, factory, so that factory can also achieve that thing. So these SOPs are there, and definitely there is a bit of team training is required and partiality, transparency is required, so that one target goal should be common for everybody. Then we can definitely achieve these.
True. Right. Shrinivas, you want to put on the communication thing?
So communication, I think even development, for example, when you're doing a proper development, many times what happens is you don't write the recipes right. I mean, I'm just generalizing it. Because if you are documenting that recipe exactly right, and you're putting the in-process standards in between, and keep that, right, as a file which is actually there, which is a transition for the bulk. So that's when basically half the work is done. Many times what would happen is basically you are just putting in a recipe which is on your own experience, and you think that you know everything and you just put it. That makes a difference, and your swatches are making a difference. So that, if you can put that documentation, makes a difference. And in terms of when you do the tapering activity and things like that, so where you actually kind of make sure the grouping is correct, proper communication to the cutting department, where you're kind of saying that this is a shade you have to cut together, the right shrinkage which is actually there, so documentation of that, making pattern exactly as per that. All these are proper communication which needs to be done. And in case suppose there are shades which are not right, I mean, many times it could happen, basically you have a shade which is something which is off, but then you end up, the laundry guy sometimes suddenly feels, this has come, how come? So this is a big, major communication gap. Sometimes what would happen, that would miss, right? The fabric which could have rejected would have actually come back to you. Correct. So how do you actually plug this? These are very, very important to actually document this, so that basically any rejection of the fabric has to be quarantined and kept it separate, it doesn't kind of get mixed up. So all these are things important, so to make it up.
Ravi. No, sorry, Rajiv.
No worry. In my 8 years...
Give some incident where this communication has created an issue.
So I would give it...
And you have done around communication, that's the reason it's a issue.
So I would give you examples from my Jack and Jones tenure, and what I have seen is when you do a complicated wash or an aggressive wash, the kinds of what we do with Jack and Jones, I think effective communication is very important, because the factory guy actually at the time of taking the production needs to tell you कि ये match नहीं होगा. मतलब there would be something which would be like 1920. We have seen a lot of incidences with cloud washes, acid, bleaches, they don't match. And there would be a lot of lots. But if that communication is done clearly at the time of taking that in production, I think we as designers or as buyers would actually know that, okay, this is the kind of outcome that will come. So that will actually help you kind of streamline things. And also I would take another different angle to it in terms of effective communication or even SOPs. With this whole concept of design to delivery in 30, 45 days, we have actually as a brand cut down a lot of SOPs.
Correct.
In terms of getting size sets approval, wash mocks approval, and straight away into the last PP and final production. But I think people don't look at it as something that reaches the market fast and churns out faster in terms of your money value, rather than getting stuck on one product and like going round and round with rejections.
Correct. So what we can able to conclude, I think audience will definitely agree to it, that this communication is very, very important. So what I feel is now SOP should not be written how the denim has to be done. The SOP should be written how the communication has to be done within the departments. So how the designer communicate to mill, how the way the mill has to communicate to the the fabric team, how the fabric team has to communicate with the sewing methods, and how the sewing has to communicate with the laundries. So I can completely agree, and I think everybody has agreed that communication, if could be improved, I think world 90% problem is because of communication. Even in our wife and husband don't communicate. That's the reason problem happens, right? So just, okay, off the track. Now, next question which I want to put stress is, now we have talked about communication, so we are talking about sustainability. So we have discussed that sustainability is very, very expensive when we talk about technologies, right? So what are the other ways we can achieve sustainability?
See, the first thing which I told you is that sustainability starts with the every aspect of the any manufacturing unit.
Right.
Be it a chemical management, be it a water management, be it a power management, or even if you see the wastewater and the recycling part, all those things matter. Even the corporate governance of the product of the company, or all the other norms which are required for the Mother Earth, or for a brand like child labor, and this all part put together becomes a part of sustainability. If you reuse the water, let's say at our place, we use 93 to 95% of the water which is being reused.
Very nice.
So that is the biggest contributing factor for the cost and the sustainability part also. Because water is going to be a bigger resource concern for all of us. And as told, the denim is requiring highest water consumption. So with
and I think somewhere mills are much more aligned to it, and they are into investment point. Also they are doing
every mill is trying to work it out in a way where they can go for zero discharge. Like we have added the additional 4-stage RO, and we have also added the multi-effect evaporator. Now we are covered with the Higgs index directly with the portal with the Rajasthan Pollution Board, so they can access our meters reading on a day-to-day, on a hourly basis, all 24 hours, all 365 days from their monitor at their office.
Right.
So this is how the government is also trying to push more and more aspect of it. On chemical management, I'm sure every mill would be doing it. The certified chemical consumption,
Correct.
or Ocotex, or maybe ZDSC complied, or such a level of compliances which are there. They all are working with the pre-reduced indigo, which itself is one part of saving on other things. Because
Right.
the powder has a de-dusting capability, which also ruins the atmosphere. Then on the other thing is like everybody is going for now biomass in the fuel sector instead of coal-fired boilers.
Right.
In any case, from 25 onwards, there is going to be most of the international brands are going to put a ban on coal as a consumption.
Correct.
So in any case, they'll have to go for it. We as our company are going for all our units into the biomass from this year.
So, but still, sir, when we talk about everybody is taking so much of initiatives in sustainability, but whenever sustainability products comes out, why it becomes so expensive?
No, it's basically not only the productivity which is being part of this as a part, because all those investments ultimately increases your overall expenditure, which is going to be an interest burden onto you, apart from the capex.
Right.
On the opex part, it is going to be like if you are using a multi-effect evaporator, there is an extra consumption of steam and power, and the overall cost goes up on your product. But at the same time, there are other parts also like PCW, the pre-consumer waste, or a post-use waste.
Yeah.
I mean, so PIW.
Right.
So those things are also added into it. So that there also the people would like to tend to get some mileage onto that.
Right.
See, anything if it is given free is my way of looking at it. is not accepted by the market as a specific requirement of the day.
Right.
Unless and until there is a charge attached to it or a cost attached to it which is being perceived by the end consumer only. If you don't have a tag and you are telling that it's my product is a pre-consumer waste product or a organic cotton or something, nobody is going to believe it.
Right.
But if it is a tag there, definitely we will look at it as a part of it that yes, there is definitely something which is being used other than the normal way. So that is where the cost goes up. But I don't think that in India people give extra cost for this.
True.
That is why it is not taking shape unless until the international brands come in place and they demand for it. Like H&M doesn't accept anything other than that.
Correct.
So they are there and they are selling most of the products of them.
Shrinivas, you want to add something?
Yeah. So for me, sustainability is not a cost. It's not an additional cost. It is always a reduction in cost because you are saving resources. So yes, water, ZLD and all is basically makes in huge amount of cost. We are like 100% zero blue water vertical, right from the mill to the garmenting. So in denim washing, we don't use any fresh water at all because that's how we do is basically we take sewage water, treat it and use it, or we take treated sewage water which is in the municipality and we use it directly into it. So entire vertical is the zero blue water. Having said that, basically operation of water will actually add cost, but what we have to actually look in terms is what is the consumption we have to do. The focus in sustainability has to be in terms of lowering the recipes, right? So many times what we see, conventionally if we see how the washing was there, I know washing which was used to be there earlier, and some people are still following that washing, which is like a huge long process and huge amount of chemicals which don't add any value nowadays because the fabrics have improved actually. So if you reduce the water consumption to a lower level, that means that much saving you can do. In terms of energy we talk about, of course, reducing the process will always reduce everything, energy, water, chemical. But also in terms of what is happening in the field of energy is basically you have the solar and everything coming in, it comes out much cheaper. So sustainability will be cheaper because you can invest now. Earlier there were basically open access not available for smaller units, now it is available, right? Correct. So there are opportunities where you can reduce your energy consumption for the same amount of the unit cost is actually reduced if you go sustainable.
Right.
Chemicals obviously I told about because you reduce the chemicals. Many chemicals some still use chemicals which don't need. Right, so you can reduce those chemicals and how do you simplify, standardize it, right? So how do you actually bring it rather than taking about, we used to, I'm talking about 15, 20 years back, I think, we used to be about 100 odd chemicals for an apparel manufacturing. We cut down drastically, I don't want to tell, but close 70, 80% kind of down because we don't need unnecessarily kind of use multiple chemicals. So that's the way forward, right? So,
and that's also because Hig is pushing everyone to do it.
Yeah,
or the brands are pushing
so I think,
put Hig into the consideration.
But everything.
So one is basically Hig is pushing, but it is also serving our purpose in terms of reducing. So it's actually a no-brainer there. So that's one of the thing, yeah.
So the way mill designs the product, like there are products which are available in the mills, like if you ask for which wash down faster than the normal indigo. And then there are also similar kind of technology available in washing also, like the chemicals which gives you a salt and pepper effect with a single water process. And other is like people are using cold processes, like where you are saving, you're not generating steam or electricity using. So these things, if you think about the end product, definitely MRP pressure is there with the designer that, okay, we have to achieve that pressure.
That's why designer always selects sustainable garment from the mill and then price don't put it, go back.
So, but that's a basic hygiene today or tomorrow.
He's rating, huh? Good.
Today or tomorrow you have to follow that. You have to do that basic, that is the basic hygiene. So
just jokes apart, I was just trying to make it
have to
a little bit more lighter.
And I don't think everybody is charging sustainability premium charging, because I see it as this is a basic hygiene. If you understand a product, you can come up with a affordable pricing with the basic operations. Yeah.
Rajiv, you want to add anything or add to it?
I think
everybody has spoken everything. Okay, now one very interesting question which I will put, and the question is related to, in our industry when problem starts or when the problem comes, it always, you will come to know the problem at the stage of when the garment is already made and it is in washing denim, correct? And when the problem comes, then it go backwards. Okay, so this, when you go back, when you go back, when you go back. And then end of the day, as I told in the earlier discussion also, it will land up on fabric, correct? And then the fabric will come and it will say, if you're not happy, why you cut the fabric? Everybody can relate? So the next question is, so it comes like your pre-production activities has to be perfect. So I want comments on those and the debates on those. So how important is the pre-production activities to get into all these troubles and firefighting? Because mill also says, if suppose many times it has happened that mill also agrees there is a problem with the fabric, but mill can't do anything because fabric has already been cut. So that is the main next question about all the discussion.
See, most of the time, those were the days what you are talking about, and few incidences probably would be coming right away also. But right now, if you see, everybody is learned and nobody wants to do any rework.
Right.
Not for claiming from somebody, but at least for their shipments to happen on time.
Yeah.
Because they have invested into everything.
Correct.
So if anything gets rejected, probably they'll be into a different mode. They'll lose that capabilities or capacities, whatever it is.
True.
So in that context, I don't think that is
so at LMK, basically those type of problems are less now.
Prevalent onto a bigger scale. But definitely a SOP for a smaller run is the most important thing, because all the parameters are tabulated into that, and that becomes a norm for all the three parties together.
Right.
Whatever gets approved, and there is a sign off on every first sample which has been taken and the first results which are there. So most of the time, unless and until there is something which has gone wrong on the fabric at some point in time which is not visible.
Right.
Because sometimes you use certain fibers which are not visible at the fabric stage, but after garment making and garment washing, it comes up. So there the dispute arises whether that on the SOP, whether that was allowed or not allowed. If it is allowed and within that range it is happening, sometimes it also becomes between the two people, whether it is on the A segment of the garment or C segment of the garment, and those things also happen.
Shrinivas, what you want to add on to it?
I think the homework done properly will actually eliminate all these things. I mean, I just talked about the right fabric, the fabric, whenever the mill is sending the fabric is sent as per the master roll.
Correct.
Or the sample yardage. That's 50% of the work done. And also the proper taper, shade, shrinkage activities are very, very crucial here. Basically to ensure that every roll is taken in. You wash the master to the target wash. That's very, very important, because sometimes people just do a basic wash which will not do the work. You need to actually make sure the target wash is done properly. Your shade grouping is done diligently. It's not just be looking into the spectral light or something like that, but you visual shade grouping, properly kind of marking the shade group on the garment, and then basically kind of washing it as per the shade. Right? Recipe, as I said, basically documentation of the development recipe, putting the same recipe, and then transferring these bases, and then basically washing it. Right? As per that first lot is very, very crucial. Many people, because of the urgency, I mean, this is something which also relates to planning also. I think that's the key, right? Planning is very, very important. Correct. Because whenever you have a shipment, what happens is if you don't plan properly, you plan in such a way that you have the bulk garments coming in 1 week from shipment and you don't have time to do your first bulk, right? Correct. That's where the biggest problem happens, because the laundry guy, he is in a tense situation here. He has to just turn around and just make sure, he has to just say yes.
So Shrinivas, after being away from laundry 8 years, still have that, heart in the laundry.
So he wants to say no, but he has to say yes, because it has to move on. That's because of the time. Because if you actually do it 1 week, 2 weeks before the pre-production activity, almost you're going to solve this problem, because you have enough time to kind of make any changes, change the recipes, approach the brands and take their approvals. All this can be done. But what happens, you wash in the morning, overnight you do it, next day morning you need to gut. So that puts a gun on your head, right? So you don't get into that situation. Plan properly. You'll be able to do it right.
So while you are speaking, Rajiv is shaking too much of head, so he wants to add something.
No, I was just thinking precaution is better than cure. So like plan everything, and I think then execute is always better than.
Good.
Brand had already learned all the processes, so there is a lot of filter process that to reduce, because there is certain budget that product had to go to market, so budget is kept there. So that should be done on time. So before that, so there is a quality design and everything is signed by the designer and the product team. Like, okay, fine, this is the final thing which is about to reach to the store. So that we had learned a lot about these things, and we definitely take a good control on those.
So great. Anybody from the audience want to, have any questions related to it? Fabric is here, designers are here. Yeah, please.
My question is more from a consumer's point of view. So I know we have these stringent protocols in place, brands have it, manufacturers have it, but when a consumer walks into the store and looks at the denim, I don't think so they can differentiate so much between the shades. But we still, this remains such a critical issue at the manufacturing level. Why is that? Is it that we are over-imposing some stringent rules which we can actually relax and still, no business is impacted? Or is it just hygiene issue for the brand? What do you think is the main reason behind this?
Design. Brands can only...
Thank you for this question.
So, see, and I'll be very honest with it. Like, I have had incidences in past which, like, as you said, like, we asked for something and the wash actually turned out a little different. And especially when when you go to brands which are like very classic and very clean, it's still manageable. But for a brand like us, where we do like a very aggressive rip and repair washing, it's like you cannot control sometimes. So we have had such incidences, but what we have done is we have packed shipments separately for different stores. So like when a consumer walks into the store, he's not able to understand like, okay, this is different from that. So we have done those kinds of things, and I think it has kind of worked well for us. So yes, it is something which I cannot answer, but it is something which is very brand specific. But I think we should look at it as a consumer lens and not really as very stringent in terms of like makki mein makki bithane wali koshish.
So you should ask basically when he is going and buying a car, he wants that wala green only, or that wala red only, that wala white only.
See, that is again something, see, car or a microchip is like something which is a computerized thing. For our kind of industry, it's, and also, see, I strongly believe in like denim is still, like one piece is different to the other. I think if we don't like kind of teach people and make that understand, like it is not going to.
So many times, I used to think when I was on the shop floor and all, I used to ask brands, approve kar de yaar, sustainability bhi hoga isse. You can reduce the rewash and rejections. Okay, anyone else? Because we are going to, yeah, please.
I'm Kirtana. I'm from Viso Blue, exclusive denim wear brand. My question is, see, we all know that denim is one of the most polluting fabrics in the world. And India is one of their main, the producers of, manufacturers of denim. So my question is how, possible it is for a small scale brand to claim sustainable denim brand. What is it required? Like, because there are so many things out there, right? From, fibers to yarns to zero waste and everything. So what is it really required for a brand to claim sustainable denim?
So that could be a big list of things, but if you go by logic, so I don't think you just need to document everything that, okay, because this is done at the washing unit level, that how much water is consumption and all those things, basic foundations. And if you, while doing that mapping process at what washes you want, if you plan as per the understanding of your factory partner where this is developed, you can reduce a lot of these resources and make a sustainable denim.
So you can start from the base fabric itself. So first is identifying that fabric is sustainable fabric. So it could be either a recycled content which is actually there, maximum permissible recycled content, or it could be also organic, which is difficult and it's going to be cost, which is going to be there. But it could be you can go in that angle, or there's something like a jeans redesign, basically fabrics which are going to strength, right? It's going to strong, So I think one we missing in terms of when sustainability is basically, it is not about basically making a garment which you're going to use it for a couple of times and throw it across. Sustainability is all about using your garment and using it for years together. So that concept is, if you can crack that, right? The fabric, and you don't want to just shelf it and put it across in your wardrobe as well. You buy a garment, you want to use it regularly, and it doesn't until you want to really tear it out, right? So those are the fabrics, those are the washers which we need to kind of concentrate on. That's all about sustainability, right? In terms of resources, obviously, in terms of what are the energy, water, chemical, and the human impact, basically reduction in terms of that. There are tools available. There are which says the process is what is the minimum level which is actually coming in. So we follow on that. But my biggest talk on sustainability when you talk about the garment is a garment which is fashionable and in all seasons and can be worn continuously without getting torn, right? So that's what we used to do earlier.